Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. As you can see, the sun has left the chat, so it's back to long sleeves and jeans, at least at the moment, hopefully for not too long. But today we're going to be working on the Forester again. This time we're not going to be modifying anything, we're actually going to be replacing something. But before we get too deep into today's video, let's roll the intro. And what we're going to be replacing today is the steering UJ. In my case, I've been putting this job off for almost, I reckon, a year, 10 months, somewhere in there. What happens with it is that because the joint is worn, it knocks every time that you turn mostly to the left and return to be straight. So we're going to be replacing that. In theory, this job shouldn't take long and it should be easy. Now, we all know what happens with easy jobs. They turn into a nightmare and then we just want to set the car on fire. So we're going to take our time, we're going to prepare everything. We only have 2 bolts to actually remove. So we're going to lubricate them, leave them for a bit and then try to remove them without breaking them. As you can see, I got the car on the ramps because I reckon just with the ramps we should be able to have enough clearance to actually get under the car and remove the bolt that is underneath. Now that being said, if we have to jack it up, I've got the jack here with me so we can create more room, more space. In that way it will make it easier, more accessible to the bolt underneath. That isn't the only reason why I actually put the car on the ramps. I thought if I put the car on the ramps instead of actually jacking it up, the wheels will stay straight and in theory they shouldn't move because you got all the weight of the car. Instead of if I have it on the jack, when I remove the UJ, I might twist it or turn it and then that could create a variation of how the steering was before. I mean, I'm going to get it tracked after anyway, but I want to give myself the best chance as the tracking probably won't happen for at least a week. So we're going to do that way as well. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the steering wheel so we make sure it's straight and it's level and it won't move. In my case, because my car is right-hand drive, it's going to be right here on the right-hand side of the vehicle, of course. I mean, obvious. Anyway, but right there underneath the brake booster is where it's going to be our first bolt. In theory, they shouldn't be too tight as this bolt should be only torqued to 24 Newton meters. So, as I said, in theory, it should be okay. But probably this is the UJ, original one is the OEM one. So, it's been there for 20 odd years. So, it might not be as easy as I think or as it says on paper. But anyway, we got one there at the top and then we're going to go underneath and I'm going to be showing you the other one that is attached to our steering rack. So if we go under the car, right there we can see our UJ and we can see as well the bolt on the left hand side. Once I start removing, I can show you a bit better, but I wanted you to have an idea of how far down the other bolt was. So as I said, we only got 2 bolts to remove and in theory they shouldn't be too hard to remove. Now what we're going to do is lock the steering. Even though the car's on the floor or on the ramps and it shouldn't move, I want to lock the steering so I know it's going to stay the same way as it was at the start of the process. Inside the car and make sure that you lock your steering. One thing that we always have to make sure before we start removing anything is that our new part matches exactly the old one. So let's open it up and hopefully it's the same thing. And here it is. If you need the part number for a Forester SG5XT, This is the one. As you can see, it's an original part. This came from Japan. I had to wait around 3 weeks for it. So in theory it should fit, but we always have to check it. As you can see as well, it doesn't come with the bolts, so we cannot snap those ones. Otherwise, we won't be able to use the car tomorrow to go to work. So let's be careful. The bolt I just showed you right underneath the brake booster is going to be a 12. No, in Japanese cars normally they are 12, 14, 16, stuff like that. It's going to be a 12. So what we're going to do is get a ratchet and a 12mm socket and try to remove it. I know you won't be able to see much from there, so I will try to get you close just for you to see how the bolts come out. I think right there you should be able to see the bolt. You should be able to see this right here, which is a bolt. So we're gonna remove it. Another thing that you should do as well, even if you're doing it this way, is make a mark on where your steering, where your UJ is located. So before we remove it, we're going to make a mark where the top and the bottom, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the bottom, but definitely the top right here. So I put the other one exactly the same way. All right, that's nice and loose. So in theory, should be able to remove this bolt. And there it is. It's a bolt and it has a washer as well, so remember that. And just like that, we got it out. As you can see, we got one bolt at the top and one at the bottom. It actually came out quite easily. As well, I ended jacking up the car just a bit. Now, the thing is, I didn't jack it up all the way, so it's still sort of the weight on the wheel, so they shouldn't turn. But what I did is give it a bit more clearance, and then I couldn't record it. I was so locked in. I couldn't record it at the bottom and I didn't record at the top. I forgot completely, so sorry about that. But basically what I've done is got a pry bar, as you can see right here. First of all, I did tap here in the middle, so it opens a bit this hole that you can see right there. So I did that first. Now my hand is all nice and covered in copper grease. And then what I did, once the gap there was a bit bigger, I started tapping it from the bottom to be able to remove it from the steering rack. And then once I've done that, I did basically the same at the top here to be able to remove it. What I'm going to do now is put the new one sort of the same way without tapping it, of course. And then I'm going to drop the car a bit so it sits where it should be sitting. And then we're going to be able to put the bolts, torque it, and go for a drive and see if it knocks or we solve the problem. So let's do that. Now that I got it out, I can explain you a bit better what was happening. So basically when I was turning, this here was rubbing, them two were rubbing there. So we were having a bit of play. And if I do this, I could tell there's a bit of play right there. So yeah, basically that was it. What it was is that every time that we rotate it, it was catching and it was rubbing, and then it was creating a noise. So hopefully with the new one we go many more years of not knocking on a steering. Here we go, a new one. As you can see, it's a lot more rigid and there's no play right there, there's no play right here. So let's just fit it. As you can see right here, I fitted our UJ to a steering column. I put the bolt, but it's nice and loose. But if you, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it from there, but there's a yellow mark right here. Yeah, it's not going to focus on that. But yes, there's a mark in there that I did before to mark exactly how far in or out they should go. And now what we're going to do is try to fit this at the bottom as well. If we come underneath the vehicle, this is what we're going to see. Now, because we got the car jacked up, we should be able to connect this with the steering rack, but we're going to have to drop it a bit so it sits where it should sit. So let's do that. I mean, it's going to be hard for me to record and be able to do both things at the same time, but let's try. Now that we got the pod mounted and we got the bolts in and it's sitting what we want it to be sitting with, aligned with the marks that we did before, what we're going to do is torque the bolts. Now the bolts needs to be torqued at 24 Newton meters, which is around 17.45 foot-pounds. But the thing is, because of the location of them, it's quite hard to actually get a torque wrench there. I mean, some people might not actually torque them, but I like doing it. So what I'm doing actually is, as you can see, I jack up the car, and now I'm turning the steering until I can see right here at the top the bolt itself. So now we can actually torque him, and then we're going to go under the car and do the same thing with the other bolt. As you can see, it's a new day. We did torque the bolts on the UJ. I took it for a spin. The steering wheel felt tighter, which is a good thing. It does indicate that there was play on that older UJ, but the issue is that we still have a knock on the steering rack. Now, maybe it was my judgment, but I could see play on the old UJ, so that's why I went for that. That's why I replaced that. Since I put the video up here, but I have changed, I think 6 months ago or something like that, or 8 months ago, the inner rods and outer rods, so I know they are good and there's no play on them. So we got two things to do here. First one, to take the old steering rack off and then send it to get it refurb, get it back, put it on, happy days. Or, and here's where things might get a bit more interesting, we can either get an STI steering rack, or we can get an Impreza bug eye or blow by WRX steering rack, which is going to give us a better feeling on the steering. It's going to be a quicker rack as far as I know, so the drivability of the car is going to improve, and we can pick up a second-hand one for not too much money. So I think that's what we're going to do, but we're not going to be taking it off in this episode because we have something a bit more excited to do today that is going to allow us to finally, after a month and a half, start driving again the Impreza. So let me show you what we got. And here we go, the part that we needed to be able to make this car roadworthy again, and we're going to be able to enjoy it and drive it once again. It's been a month and a half that I've been waiting for it, and as you can see, it comes from Japan, so that's the reason why it's been so long as well. When I ordered this part, the week after Japan was on holiday, it was like a whole week holiday. I don't remember which one it was, I don't remember the name of the holiday, and that basically put everything on back order. So yeah, long story short, here it is, and we're going to fit it. So if you want to know what is in this box, stay tuned for next video, but for now, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing if you do, and I shall see you very shortly.